Guys, DIY Maniac here. I was actually in the process of winterizing my John Deere D105 riding mower. I'm not going to go over that process, but I will make a video at a different, maybe next year when I winterize it on the steps and how to do that. But I'm sure if you guys look, you can find some videos on that already. But the purpose for this video was to show you what I noticed on my deck, on the mower deck, was some rust. Now, as you can see, the deck is off. I'm not showing you that either. I do apologize. Look on YouTube. There'll be many videos showing you how to do that. But we can see the deck is off. And when I took the deck off, I noticed a lot of surface rust and even a little bit of deeper rust underneath the deck. Now keep in mind, I take this deck off every year. I scrape it, I clean it. I scrape it with a nylon brush. I'm not scratching the paint, but still, I mean, it's wet grass on there in the summer, and it works. Moisture works its way in and starts to form rust. It is going on. It's at 3 years old now. So what I did is I took the mower deck off. I removed the spindles, so you can see the spindles are already off. If you come over here, I'll show you the spindles and the pulleys are there. So to get the spindle off, you're going to remove your pulley nut. The pulley nut is a 22 millimeter, and that allows you to get the pulley nut off. The pulley then lifts off the spindle, and then after that you're going to have per spindle 4 10 millimeter bolts that need to be removed, and that releases the spindle from the deck. Now, of course, before you remove your spindles, you also need to remove your blades. I'm sure most of you have already been doing that if you're sharpening them every year like you're supposed to. So on those, you have your 2 nuts that are on the blade underneath. And for those ones, it's a 24 millimeter to get those nuts off. And when you're going to put the blades back on, always make sure the curved side is facing out. Otherwise, you're going to be cutting in the wrong direction, and you won't be cutting anything. You'll just be scaring the grass, if anything. So once you get the blades off, flip it over, remove the pulley nut, remove the retaining bolts, the 4 of them for the spindle itself. You can even see the 4 holes here. So the 4 10 millimeter spindle drops out, gets out of the way. And then you're going to want to start cleaning the underside of the deck. Now, if you're going to be doing like I'm doing, which is repainting, you don't have to worry about scratching the old paint off. You actually want to get as much of the old paint off as you can, that whatever's flaking. So what I did is, once everything was removed, I started by hand with a wire brush, and that was working okay, and a metal scraper to get all the grass off and everything. But then I wanted to really get it even better, so I took my die grinder, and with my die grinder, I used a wire brush on my die grinder, and I worked at it also, getting it as clean as possible. I mean, it's not 100%, but it's 99% clean. And then I'm going to hose it down, really clean it, dry it off, and get ready for paint. I'm not 100% sure what I'm going to do for paint just yet. I want to first obviously put a rust inhibitor on to neutralize the rust that's already there and to protect it against future rust. And then after that, I want to put on, I was thinking of just putting a standard, trim clad rust paint on. I'm going to see what other paint options I have. Maybe something with a Teflon in it that would keep the underside of the deck cleaner in the summer, so the grass won't stick to it as easily. But I'm not even sure if they have that. But as the video goes on, I'm going to the store tonight. I'll see what my options are and let you know what I'm deciding. I might just go with a rust inhibitor and then just a black paint after that. So I'll keep you guys updated. The video will continue at the painting process. And then at the end of the video, keep watching. I'm going to show you step by step on how to reassemble. I do apologize. I didn't start filming when I was disassembling. I really should have. I only thought of it now, but I figured better late than never. But you will see how everything goes back together. So the removal is the reverse of the installation. So we'll get back to that soon. So I'm back. It's actually the next morning. And I went last night and got my paints of choice. So I ended up getting was a rust converter made by the company Rust Check. And what that does is when you spray it on, it basically neutralizes the rust and converts it, and will prevent the rust from spreading and stop the rust that's already there. And the nice thing about this is once it's dry, it's paintable afterwards. So we're going to be putting that on first, and then followed by just a rust paint I'm going to be putting on after. And I'll tell you the truth, we're going to see how this works. I have a feeling, considering the abuse that goes underneath that mower deck when cutting grass, from just grass clippings to rocks to sand to branches, I don't know how long this paint's going to last under there, but it'll be a good test for us to see, and we could reevaluate next year and see if it was really worth it. But for me right now, the main purpose is to stop the rust that's already forming. So what I did is I set up my mower deck, took my ladder, made a tarp just to shield it. So I'm going to put you guys down, see how well we can do this. You can watch me do my paint process. So we're going to take our rush check, shake it well, and we're going to put a coat over the entire deck surface. Whether there's rust or not, we're going to coat the whole thing. So spray it on. It's like using any other aerosol paints, just a thin layer. Go even strokes. So you guys get the idea. So I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to film myself painting this whole time, and then I'll pick up once it's dry and we're going to be putting the paint on. So we're back at it. As you can see, the painting is done. So I ended up just putting the black rust paint on. It's a flat matte finish, flat black. There's no special coating, like I said, and I was going to try to look for something with maybe a Teflon in it so the grass wouldn't stick. I couldn't find anything. So I just went ahead and put just a standard paint. So I did the rust inhibitor to convert any rust that's there and stop any future rust, and then put the rust paint on top of that. I put on about 7 coats, put it on thick, and we'll see how it protects over the next summer against rock chips and different stuff. I don't think it's going to hold up that great, but we definitely will see. So now we're going to go through the process of putting the mower deck back together. So installing the spindles and the blades. I have another video just went up showing me how to sharpen the blades, so you can refer to that video if you want to see how that's done. So I'm just going to set everything up, get everything I need, and we're going to get back on the video. So we got our mower deck set up. So what we're going to do first is install our spindles back into the deck. So the way you're going to want to do this, you're going to want to take your spindle, and you're going to be inserting it from the underside of the deck up through, and then your bolts are going to come from the top down. So you want to get your bolts together that you had taken off. There's the 4 of them with the 10mm head. And you're going to put your spindle through. You're going to line up the holes on the other side. And for now, we're just going to hand start the bolts to hold the spindle in place. So you want to put at least 2 in. Get in the spot. And you're going to want to remember when you're doing this to make sure that when you orient the orientation of your spindle, use your grease zert, your grease fitting, as an orientation marker, because you don't want to put your grease zert in such a place where you're not going to be able to get the grease gun in to service it with the mower deck on the mower, because that would be a pain. So in this case, on this one, the grease zert is pointing out, so you could easily access it. So I'm just going to get those hands started. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our ratchet with our 10mm, and we're going to tighten those up. The torque spec on these is 20 foot-pounds, so basically hand tight, as we say. The way I work, I've been working on cars for a long time and doing this kind of stuff. Anything under 25 foot-pounds is hand tight. Once it goes over that, I'll definitely use a torque wrench. As you'll see, we're going to use the torque wrench when we do the spindle bolt for the pulley, as well as the blade retaining nut. So get our ratchet on, and we're going to cinch those up. You want to work, well, we're not putting much force on these, but I always like, whenever tightening anything, to work in a cross pattern like you would when you're putting on a tire, just to evenly press it on, so to avoid any warping. Like I said, in this case I don't think it's an issue, but you know, it's a habit I tend to keep to whenever doing this kind of work. So get the 4 of them done. So in this video I'm just going to do, well, I'm going to show step by step the one spindle, and then the other one I'll do off camera, but we'll come back when we reroute the belt and all the fun stuff. So hand tight. There we go. So what we'll start on next is the blade. So when you're putting the blade on, you want to make sure that you're putting it in the right direction, meaning the right side is facing out. So if you look at your mower blade, you have the curved side, and you have the side that's curved inwards. The inward curve needs to be facing out, and that way when it rotates, it's actually cutting the grass. Because if you had it the other way, with the way it rotates, the non-sharpened side would be what's hitting the grass, and it wouldn't really cut anything. It would just push the grass down. So when you place the blade onto the spindle, you're going to see the spindle itself has these, I guess you could say, diamond notches that orients the blade and holds it in place. You're then going to put your washer and your nut. Put that on. We start it by hand always. Now obviously as you go, the spindle's going to want to turn, so you could use the blade to hold it by hand. And now it gets a little tight. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our socket, which is our 24mm, and before using the torque wrench, I'm going to use my impact gun just to zip it on and get it tight. Snug, I guess I should say. And then we're going to take our torque wrench. Now as far as the torque spec on this, I found anywhere from 45 to 55 foot-pounds online. So I'm going to go with 50. And that's for both the nut that holds the blade on, as well as the pulley nut on the other side. So what you want to do is you want to stop this blade from turning. Now you're thinking you're going to be turning clockwise, so this blade's going to want to go this way. So you take yourself a block of wood. I don't know if this block of wood's going to work. We're going to try it. We're going to jam it in here and see how the blade's hitting it, and now the blade is unable to turn. So I'll come here, we're going to put our socket on with our torque wrench, and we're going to start to tighten. And once you hear I'm already there, the torque wrench, I'm sure you guys know how to use torque wrenches. You hear the brake, you know you're tight. So we know we're good there. And what I'm going to do is now get it ready to do on the other side. So now we're going to put our pulley on our spindle. So we lay the mower deck down. Just make sure you guys got a good view of that. Bring up the camera over here so you can see a little bit better. So if you look now down, you can see the spindle sticking up, and now your pulley is going to have to go on. So we take our pulley, and you have to remember there's a brake. Here, let's see if I can put the camera this way. Sorry about all the jerkiness of the camera. I just want to make sure I got you guys in a good position. This tripod's not the best. So if you see, you're going to put your pulley on, and you have a brake that you need to push back. This is the brake that gets activated when you shut down the mowing. And the same thing, the pulley itself has notches. It's like an octagon. And so you're holding the brake back with your hand. So you can see my thumb is pushing the brake back. So put the pulley on, turn it till it locks into place. Then you could let go of the brake. And now we could go ahead and put our nut on over there. I'm just going to move the camera because I know it's going to vibrate like crazy once I get going. So we're going to take our nut for our top. There's no washer on this. It's just a big nut that kind of has a built-in washer on it, I guess you could say, to put even force. And we're going to go start it by hand. Bring it all the way down. We're going to take our torque wrench, which is still at 50 foot-pounds, and now we're going to take our 22 millimeter socket. We're going to put it on, and we're going to start torquing till we hear our click. Now the pulley's going to want to turn, so you can hold it with your hand. If you can't do that, what we're going to have to do is the same thing, put the wood in behind to stop the blade from turning. And honestly, guys, I think that's what we're going to need to do. So we're going to step our deck back up. We're going to take our piece of wood. We're going to lock it in place. We're going to take our torque wrench on the other side, and we're going to torque the spec. Oh, actually, yeah, it's true. It's turning the opposite way because we're on the other side. So let's get this done so it'll actually work. Let's bring it there. Let's put it like that. And then, this might not lock in place. Let's see what we can do here. Well, that might work. I don't know. We're going to have to see how we got to get that wood in there. Yeah, nope, it's not working. So we'll have to figure out something. What I'm thinking is if we put the wood this way. Yeah, it's a weird piece cut of wood. It's a scrap wood that I have laying around. There we go. I think if I wedge it there. Now let's try it. And we hear our click from our torque wrench. So we know we're torqued, and now we can remove our wood. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and do the second side, and then I'll come back and show the routing of the belt and how we finish up. So we have both blades on, both spindles secured, both pulleys on. So now it's just a matter of routing the belt back around where it goes. So you can see how it goes there. So we want to make sure our belt is on our pulley. It comes, wraps around, comes here, around that pulley, and of course, once the deck is back on, it's all going to have tension. Right now, there's no tension on it, but you kind of see it there. So, like I said, the key points when putting everything back together is respecting torque specs, as well as orienting the spindle in the proper orientation to make sure that grease fitting is pointing in the right direction. You could use these plastic shields, which I know a lot of people don't use. They end up taking them off. But if you look on your plastic shield, there's a cutaway, and that's to access the grease cert when you want to do some greasing on it. So you want to make sure your grease cert, when this is oriented, is pointing out in that access panel. But you know what? I mean, that's the way it should be done. But most of us at the end of the season are going to take off the mowing deck, remove those covers. So in the end, it doesn't really matter where the grease cert is coming out, but I think it is, because you're going to want to do possible greasing throughout the summer without removing the deck. So that's pretty much it. So all that's left is securing down those covers, and it is done. And I don't put the deck on the mower over the winter. I keep it off just for some space saving. But that's pretty much it. So if you guys have any comments, questions, leave them down below. Thank you very much for watching. and keep looking out for new videos as they keep coming. Thank you very much.